Hey there, thanks for joining us. I'm Stephan Bajaio, Chief Marketing Officer here at Turnover B&B. I have my good friend Vince Breslin, CEO of Uplisting, here with me, one of the fastest growing companies actually in our space. Super excited to have you here with us, Vince. Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Uplisting.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stefan. So Uplisting is a property and channel management software built specifically for short-term rental growing property managers.
Awesome. So, I'm learning a lot about the space, obviously, and as I kind of dive headfirst into it, um, how do hosts know? There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of hosts out there who have one property, two properties, not a ton per se, and they're trying to figure out when is the time to actually add more properties to their portfolio.
Yeah.
Is there any sense of when and how they should go about doing that?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the business model. So we have, there's three really distinct ones. We have people who are buying properties. So they own the properties. They'll have less than somebody who's doing rental arbitrage or who is managing properties on behalf of the owners or the clients. So somebody who's maybe investing in a property is got to think about liquidity and having the down payment for the property. So it's a bit of they're going to have less properties. It's going to be a longer process, but they should always be on the lookout for their next property. I think that's the way to be thinking about it. For rental arbitrage, you're kind of aiming for I don't know, maybe 30, 40, 50 properties and going from there. So you're always on the lookout, talking to landlords, trying to work out deals. So you're, again, constantly looking for these new opportunities. And then for the property managers who are managing on behalf of clients, like you're aiming for maybe 100, 150 properties at that point. So you need to be growing quite quickly and adding 3, 4, 5 properties, a month. So you're constantly looking for these clients. But I think the one thing that they all have in common is you can't really scale until you have your system in place, your operation. So I think you need to have your whatever software you're using, processes, all the operational side of things kind of worked out before you start scaling.
Oh, that's actually a great point. So when you're considering those, it sounds like we have three personas here, right? When those folks are making considerations on when and how and where to grow, what are some of the factors they need to take into account? Like, what do you see as if you could give them advice, you all as a company must engage with hundreds of them. So you've seen the ones that work and the ones that fail.
Yeah.
What do you think is the key to making sure that whatever your next property is a right choice?
Yeah, I guess property-wise, there's thoughts around what's your target market? Is it families? Is it like a business traveler? So you really need to be sourcing properties that meet that persona. As you say.
It's a great point.
Yeah, so that's really important. So you can't just you'll have your set. The properties you're looking for will be pretty uniform or the same kind of concept. You're probably not going to have a vacation rental. One in the center of New York or whatever. They're quite different target markets. And when you're looking to build your brand, you want to be really focusing on one persona for the most part. Then in terms of scaling and allowing you to scale, it's very much about having your processes and operations in place. If I'm looking at our most successful customers who have 300, 400 properties, operations is just dialed in entirely. It's really impressive to watch them just scale with all of the processes in place.
Got it. So I'll off-road a bit with this question. What do you think makes you go from that small number, that one or two property, into what do you think makes you able to take that jump, go to the larger number and so forth? Do you have to keep it in the same location? What are the factors you think that really mitigate a bit of the risk?
Yeah.
Right, because it's riskier for you if you got one property, you go to two, than it is for the one who's adding one property when they've got 15, 20, 30, 40, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking of our main customer are the property managers who manage on behalf of a client or the property owner. How they go from scale, I don't know. I guess you kind of start out, it'd be very common to start off with one or two properties, get to 5. What happens frequently is you'll have your own Airbnb or you'll have your own short-term rental property. Your friends also have, maybe an investment property. They're like, okay, you're doing quite well. Do you want to manage our properties? Then their friends will get involved as well. So you kind of get to 20 properties. Like that's a very common story where you're at 20 properties. You're like, okay, this is actually quite lucrative. I could make a business out of this. And then you start thinking about, what can help me grow? What's the software that can help? What's the challenges in my business that I can solve in different ways? So I think it's fairly common to get to that point where you have 20, and then once you're at that point, you're in the deep end anyway. You have to figure it out.
Right.
You can go from there.
So that actually leads us quite well into the idea of for some of our viewers and who really need to first understand this, but like a PMS, a property management system, something like Uplisting.
Yeah.
What is it? Like what is the basis off which it is, and then kind of like what's its purpose?
Yeah. So we exist to, as much as possible, put your business on autopilot. So there's a few different elements to it. We're a property and channel manager, which is quite common now. Where one thing that we do, the fundamental thing that we do is you get a booking from Airbnb. We block off your dates on Booking.com, Vrbo, Google, your direct booking website. If you can imagine, managing one property across Airbnb, Booking.com, and Vrbo, changing the prices, marking dates unavailable, changing restrictions, messaging guests. So that's kind of painful with just one property on those channels.
Sure.
When you have 5, even 20, 100, 200, 300, it's just impossible.
It's impossible because just the amount of work you have to do, even though those are small things, multiply them times the number of channels and you're underwater in terms of time.
You can't possibly do it. So fundamentally what Uplisting does is it's all in one platform. So you change a date, or you change a price in Uplisting, that syncs to all booking sites. You mark a date unavailable, that syncs to all booking sites. A booking comes in from Airbnb, we block off all the other booking sites. So that's fundamentally kind of what we do. So it's about that channel syncing, which is really important. It allows you to increase your revenue. You get better occupancy rates because you're on more channels. Then we have lots of automation features, like guest messaging is a huge one. So if you're thinking of what you're trying to achieve with guest messaging, it's to have a really good guest experience. You want to be proactively messaging guests around check-in instructions or any pre-arrival tasks that you want them to do, like sign a rental agreement, for example. So you can you automate that through Uplisting, through all of your automated messages, and you can do really complex flows and just basically eliminate the need for you to do any manual sending of messages, apart from responding to guests who message like through Airbnb or whatever.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So when we think about, we kind of have it down for what a PMS, property management system is. Take it further, right? There are folks out there right now who are probably, I would assume this is the heart of your system, right? If you're in this business, you need a property management system that's going to do the things you need.
Yeah.
Some of the things you probably know you need, and probably some of the stuff that I frankly wouldn't have even thought of, like in terms of the guest messaging and other things like that.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things to consider when purchasing a property management system? Like, how do you give me the layman, how do I approach this? Like, what are the questions I should be asking in a sales process?
Yeah.
How many should I be looking at? Like, give me a sense of what's what.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. There's no, first of all, just to be really aware that there's no one size fits all. And there's quite a lot of software out there because of the fact that you just cannot meet everybody's needs. So what you're looking for, I think you need to have your core requirements, which may be the booking site that you list on. It may be integrations like Turno Airbnb that you must have. They must have a relationship with that software.
Hold on, I'll pay you for that.
Yeah.
I'll pay you for that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Then things like, for me, extremely important is reliability. There's a lot of great software out there. There's also a lot of terrible software out there, and you cannot build your business on unreliable software. So that's number one.
Fair point.
We put a lot of effort into reliability.
So what's a question I should ask?
It's a hard one to ask that question. It's probably more about looking at reviews and checking what other people are saying about it, and if they're getting double bookings. Double bookings can be extremely expensive to you. If you're on Booking.com or now Airbnb, that you get if you have to rehouse a guest, you've paid for that. It's a lot. It can be really expensive.
Okay, and that can be due to the unreliability of the software not recognizing that both channels are booking at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
For the space.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
one thing. If you're, if messages aren't sending, like the systems are quite complex, as you can understand with Turno Airbnb. It's not simple stuff. Things can go wrong.
Sounds like a lot of things can go wrong.
Yeah, a lot of things can go wrong. And if you have software that is getting something wrong, they're probably getting a lot of things wrong. So
Got
yeah,
it. So check those reviews, vet
check the
them,
reviews,
make sure that like, what are some other things you think you have to really like? Because that's a good point. I would not have thought of that. So what else? What else should I be asking or looking for in that sales process to ensure? So reliability is one.
Yeah.
What else?
Like what's part of your flow? So for example, we have e-sign rental agreements built in. We have guest identification built in, and we have like security deposit collection. They may not be important to you, but they may, if they are important to you, then having those built in is helpful because they tie into the other features then, like our messaging. So if you haven't signed your agreement, you can set up a message to say, you haven't signed your agreement. Here's a reminder to sign your agreement. 3 days before check-in, for example. So just keeping some things intact. It may be that you need to have investor reports. That might be better software for that if you've got to manage LPs and that kind of thing.
Right.
Then it's cost. Obviously, is it prohibitive? Is it taking a percentage of my bookings, which can be really can get very expensive? Is there like a long contract period? Am I tied in for 12 months? Because I don't think that's a good sign from a tech perspective. If you have to be signed in, if you have to sign your customers, if you have to lock your customers in for 12 months, doesn't necessarily look good. Okay. But yeah, there's lots of different, and then I think reviews are really important. So you'll see a lot of reviews out there for the software, and it gives you a good indication of what's good. And then also like how often are they releasing features? Are they improving? Is it a stagnant software that's not doing anything, or can you see them? Is there a public roadmap that you can see the features they're releasing, and that might meet your needs like in a month, 6 months time, kind of thing.
That's awesome. I think that these are great points about the concept of it's not one size fits all, right? Yeah. You need to look for the features and functionalities that make the most sense for you. Yeah. I guess in that process, is there any particular pitfalls you think that people like a mistake in purchasing the software people frequently make, where you could almost warn them, hey, like, make sure you don't like double check this. Yeah. Not just the reviews, but like most people who fit incorrectly into a software do. Yeah. Fill in the blank. I don't know. Yeah, good. I think first of all, it's important just to realize that it won't solve all your problems. So that is number one. Okay. It's not going to solve all your problems, and just be aware of that. And there will be things you need to work out, on the side or whatever it is. Believe it or not, it won't just take your business and autopilot everything. Yeah. You have to still be running a business, right? Okay, that's fair enough. Then so there's like a mis-expectation when you buy a PMS that it just takes over and is like this robot that will do everything for you, but you still actually need to set a whole bunch of things in there. Correct? Yeah. It's just not the solution. You're not going to get a solution that's going to solve all your problems. Right. That's just basically it. And unfortunately, maybe in time that will be resolved, but sure, things change. So do problems. So it's hard for any solution to do that. And a new channel might come along, and it's a new shiny object. People are like, oh, where's this one? It's like, well, what? We're thinking like, where's the proof that actually is bringing bookings in and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, there's lots of questions around that. But then it's the paying a lot of software are charging upfront for like maybe $1,000 to just get started, and then when you're bought into it, then you're kind of there's sunk costs at that point. Right. So I'd be wary of those. Okay. Of that. Yeah. So don't commit before you're ready to really commit. Yeah. Cool. Maybe take it for a test drive. I think offering a free trial, not putting in your credit card, for Uplisting, for example, 2 weeks free, no credit card. Have a look around. If it doesn't work out for you, that's fine. If it does, great, continue. Because it's a commitment. Yeah. I mean, you are really going to put this in as like the heart of your system. Yeah, so you better be get it ready and aware of what you're doing. Exactly. Cool. So what challenges do hosts encounter when they're not using a PMS, right? Like we've obviously talked about some of the value props that a PMS can bring to the table, but what are the factors you think that like you're missing out on if you're not with a PMS? Yeah, quite a lot. I think when we see, we do like onboarding calls or demo calls with members who don't use any software, and it's like the easiest sell possible because they're just wowed by everything you can do. Right. So you're limiting yourself basically. It's really hard to do without software. Listing on multiple channels is very hard, very difficult. So you're most likely Airbnb is your number one channel. It's right. Quite common across the board, and maybe Verbo. But it becomes very hard at scale to manage all of those. And they do have these iCloud connections that you can use to talk to channels, but they sync between 2 and 24 hours. It's not. Oh, so the double bookings and all that stuff can happen with that, which is a disaster. Yeah, one double booking a month probably will pay for your PMS, your software. Really. Generally, depends on your price. Sure, what your price point's like, but I guess that's a good calculator for someone who's trying to validate to either themselves or maybe their management why they need a PMS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even their business partners, why we need to go and invest in this technology aside from all the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Literally do the calculation of like what could your cost be if you got a double booking.
Yeah, exactly.
You
So
know?
it's one factor for sure. Then there's the, you can't set the same price on each channel because of the different commission structures. So setting $100 on Airbnb and Vrbo, you're going to earn less money on Vrbo, most likely, depending on what your setup is like. So you need to work out what the prices are. Is that in a spreadsheet? And what will happen? It means that you're not going to set prices as frequently, and that in turn not going to generate as many bookings and as much revenue. So that's one aspect of it. And then
So hold on. So I just want to make sure I got that. So if let's say my price is 100, right? I'm just trying to make the math easy.
Yeah.
My price is 100 a night. All of a sudden, if I was to send that to Airbnb and I'm sending it to Vrbo, the fee structure is going to change.
Yeah.
And so what does a PMS do to help me with that?
Yeah, so on Uplisting and probably most PMSs, you can set a markup and it just automatically increases.
So it's a
the
rule,
price.
an automated rule that's going to
Yeah.
automatically mark up whatever that price point is.
Yeah. So basically take into account the commission on the channel and make sure that the price set on each channel ends up with, once it's booked, the price is what you actually wanted to earn. So on Uplisting, you say it's $100. We send that to Airbnb at maybe 103. Vrbo 115, 116. You can customize. So then at the end of the day, once the booking is made, you still earn that 100.
Got it. No, that's great. I mean, that's something that someone might not be thinking about, especially when you want to go multi-channel.
Yeah.
And probably something you're not taking into account.
Yeah.
Because you're really familiar with Airbnb.
Yeah.
You've never really done business on Vrbo.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to lose money.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I wasn't aware of that. So it's a big one. It's such a pain to do it if you're doing it manually.
Sure.
Whereas, with software, you just click a button and it figures it out for you. So software is so good at those. If you think about all the repetitive tasks you do manually, software can probably solve all of those. That's the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah, so I think of it like, it's a weird analogy or maybe similar, whatever. It's like a bionic arm. It doesn't replace your arm. It makes your arm stronger. Like we didn't take your arm off and put a robot arm.
Yeah.
We just made you able to lift a lot more or do things a lot faster using your technology.
Yeah. Then there's
cool.
like loads of add-ons. So we have like a built-in rental agreement that you can just have somebody sign, built into a guest page on Uplisting. Same with a deposit and guest identification. So scanning, an ID and making sure it's the actual legitimate ID. So all of those things that you may do manually through emails, again, just totally replaced with a system that can automate that for you. So you're only getting involved when somebody hasn't done something. So for 90% of guests will automatically do or go through the process that's set up through the software.
Right.
Some won't, of course, but you're just left to figure those ones out.
Yeah, I mean, it won't, like we said, it won't automate everything, and there will be cases where you have to show up at a property or you have to have someone there. But ultimately, it is trying to make as much of the repetition.
Yeah, sort of.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder if do you ever see people kind of try and validate the price of a PMS based on the hourly cost of what it is to do these actions?
Yeah, I guess PMSs will do that and say, we're going to save you 100 hours a week or whatever it is.
Okay.
I don't know what. I think professional property managers will just understand the value of software and Uplisting, and they're like, so long as we're not giving away 3% of our revenue to the software, then it makes sense.
Got it. And then, what do you think is one of the largest factors in choosing one PMS versus another? Now, I know we talked about there being different kind of sizes, but what do you see as the traditional, is it the number of properties that tends to be the factor that changes it? Is it that it's geared toward property managers or single owners? What do you think that breakdown really is in the industry?
Yeah, there definitely is a breakdown by number of properties. Okay. So, if there's a lot of great hosts that just have one property or two, and they don't want any more. That's what they want. So,
but they can still use a PMS, right?
Yeah, totally. But the PMS they use will be more suited to what their needs are. Their needs are quite different to somebody with 20, 30 properties.
Got it.
It's different interface, it's different challenges, it's maybe different at price point as well. So we're focused specifically on the growing property manager because we just want to focus on not one set, but like their challenges.
Right.
And so an example being their challenges are client statement. So every month you need to do a report for your client,
Right.
show how much money you've made, what the expenses are. That's not something that a one property host is going to need.
Right. You don't need to prove to yourself.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So
Yeah,
so they don't
sense.
need to pay for that. And
Right.
what other examples are like maybe more accounting and just a scale, whatever a business at scale requires is quite different to a one mom and pop one
Sure.
property.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's one way of differentiating.
It's interesting to me because we talked about channels, and I'm starting to realize that direct actually can play a fairly large
Yeah.
like channel in of itself.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little about direct and how that works with the PMS and like how that varies and how businesses actually deploy direct.
Yeah.
Direct is basically not relying on the big Airbnbs and VRBOs and so forth to drive all of your revenue, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, direct is what we did before these channels came along,
Right.
So it's kind of coming a bit full circle, but direct is a great resource of making more money, increasing your revenue, and having that relationship with your guest is extremely valuable. People are typically quite concerned about going direct. It's like, Airbnb have this host protection, they verify the guest and everything else. And those protections aren't necessarily that easy, or what it says on the tin, basically. And you can set up direct bookings to be very similar to that. So, with Uplisting, you can verify the guest ID and make sure that in exactly the same way as on Airbnb.
Got it.
There's insurance providers you can connect in if you're concerned about that kind of thing.
Sure.
And then it's like the challenge of building a direct booking website.
You got to build a brand, right?
Yeah,
at
you
that
gotta build a
point,
brand.
you build a brand and build credibility.
Yeah, and you have to obviously have a way for them to book direct. So, on Uplisting, we have a direct booking, click and play, press a button, and you can get a direct booking website.
Really?
Within seconds. It's available to you to take direct bookings and go through the process, and the guest can pay online, and it goes through to your Stripe account. And
So I don't necessarily have to do like a Wix or a
No.
Squarespace or any of that stuff.
No. So the way that I see, the way we build our software is to, at the very least, provide the starting point for what you want to do. So
Got it.
we're not going to be looking to compete with WordPress and
Right.
Webflow and everyone else who can provide beautiful websites that have loads of content, and you can have different themes and templates and stuff, and SEO, of course, is a big
Right.
one. So the way I see it with direct bookings is click and play direct booking website, start taking direct bookings today. There's no need to wait for 6 months until you designed your website out.
Yeah, everyone looks for perfection before they start. I know
away.
I'm the same way. I'm like, until it's really exactly the way I want it. It's my brand. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But in reality, you're saying stand it up because today someone's willing to make that purchase.
Exactly. And then from there you can evolve. You can build your own website over time, invest in that, connect it to Uplisting through like the API or whatever it is to sync prices, availability. But basically the way I see it is it's an evolving process, and don't just wait to do it until you're ready. Just get it live and people will book.
That's awesome.
And like the direct bookings, what we're looking at, lowest hanging fruit are your previous guests. So it's people who have booked before who are going to stay
Interesting.
again.
So like you almost like use your CRM to go back to those same users and say next time book directly with us.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not, you don't have to go.
You don't find them with your direct book.
Not
you
necessarily.
rebook them with your direct book.
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
what you can do that today, tomorrow. That's the thing. It's not you don't have to have a huge content plan or SEO plan or doing loads of Google ads or whatever it is, or Facebook ads.
And you've already built the trust because they went to your rental.
It's a no-brainer.
Right. They've gone to your rental. They might be willing to go to another one of your rentals. And at the same time, if they want to rebook in the same rental, they know what they're getting. They know the trust that's already been established between the host and the guest. So it's really a non sequitur unless they just find Airbnb easier.
Yeah, which some do, of course, but it's cheaper. So there's a huge selling point. You're saving, like if Airbnb are charging the guest up to 20% on top of what your prices are, then you have that whole margin to play with to make you can make 5% extra and still save the guest 15%.
Wow.
Maybe a bit exaggerated there.
Right, but you could even reach out to the guest and let them know, we have better rates here if you want to book with us direct and so forth.
And we do promo codes as well. So we have a few members who are really active with like influencers. They've got, the properties are beautiful properties. So they have influencers on Instagram, whatever it is, like sending, doing pictures of their properties and saying book this property direct on this website with this promo code of whatever the name is, and then that helps to generate bookings as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so there's lots you can do with the direct bookings. And on Uplisting, we launched our direct booking website in the start of COVID. 2020 because we saw there was a big opportunity of what was going on in the market. We did $2.5 million for our members that year. Last year was $14.5 million, and this year will be over $30 million for direct bookings.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so a lot of money to be made.
Sure. So I guess that's a heads up for our viewers. Don't miss those opportunities because you're
don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, I mean, and don't let your perfectionism get
exactly
done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Right, in this case.
Exactly.
And it's you'll see it in your bank statements. So,
yeah, there's an incentive there.
Thanks. I really appreciate, Vince, everything you've shared with us today. I think if you're interested, obviously, in learning more, check out Uplisting. They're a great company and a partner of ours here at Turnover B&B. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.